Welcome back to sports.
A network.
I'm Scramble James,
I'm Kenny S.
and we're going to talk about the NHL and the halfway point of the season. We're going to look back at our preseason predictions, see how those predictions are lining up, and tell you which teams are awesome
Woo!
and which teams are not.
Wow, wow.
All right, let's do this. All right, everybody, here we go. We're going to break it down, starting with the Western Conference and the Central Division. That's right. Kenny, what do you think about the Central?
Oh, the Central Division. This division is absolutely stacked with talent. Looking at the first team at the top of the list, we have Colorado Avalanche, who are absolutely dominating the NHL with elite scoring and defense. They have a ton of depth, getting a lot of spark from young guys like Brindley, Bardakov, Solovyov. You also have one of the best goalie tandems in the NHL, and even their third goaltender who has been coming up from the minors in his 3 games has had a .94 save percentage. That is Trent Miner. This team, it seems like they can make no errors except for maybe on the power play, but that's for another episode. Currently, Colorado has 73 points as of the 11th, so as of today. Colorado is on pace for 136 points for the season, possibly breaking the Bruins 2022-2023 single season record for most points. And honestly, I don't know who's going to catch these guys. Their underlying stats look amazing, and I think this is my pick for the Stanley Cup winner. Moving on
Yeah,
to the
they're
second
they're
team. Oh,
crazy. They're super
yeah,
crazy, dude. Yeah, let's chat about them for a second
yeah.
because
What do you
they
have to say
deserve it.
about
Yeah,
Colorado?
I mean they're a total wagon. Like you said, the power play is their weak kind of point. You know, they're 26 in the league in power play, which is a bummer. And
I
that is
will say it has been getting better though. It has looked better. The process has looked better. I don't think this is the same power play we saw game 1 or 2.
yeah,
So I do like to make that note that it looks like it's getting better. It may not be the best in the league, but hey, when you're scoring that many points on 5-on-5, I don't know how much that really matters.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I will say that the power play is what doomed them last year against Dallas, as we know well.
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
that all this is great. Like they're on pace to be the greatest regular season team of all time. That's awesome. None of it is going to matter if they don't win.
Yeah. It
Like
all
like
changes day one of the playoffs. We
yeah,
go back to 0-0 record and it honestly doesn't matter. So
yeah, and it's like we saw that with Boston the year they
totally.
set the single season record, and then they got booed off their home ice when they lost in the first round to Florida. You know, and it's just like I hope Colorado fans wouldn't boo the team off if
Yeah.
they do lose in that situation, but like this team is their only goal is to win a cup and
And let's be
nothing
honest,
else
that's the
matters.
expectation from the fans, from management, from the team. It's cup or
Yeah.
bust this year. Like I even think losing in the conference finals would be. I think the team and the fan base, not necessarily myself, would look at that as failure, but that's to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I also think it's wild that Wedgwood has been playing so good. That's like the other crazy like
Yeah,
McKinnon we can talk about. Everybody knows about McKinnon and everything, but like Wedgwood being their backup goalie and coming in and playing and having a 920 save percentage through
totally.
the halfway point is wild.
Especially with Blackwood having dealing with injuries kind of in and out of the season, not necessarily super severe injuries, but things that have taken him
Right.
out for a week or two at a time. And just
Yeah.
being able to lean on Wedgwood the way we have. I mean, you
Yeah.
couldn't ask for more from a backup goalie.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And he's created a situation where now it's more of a 1A, 1B. I mean, Blackwood is going to start in the playoffs, but it's more of
Totally.
a 1A,
Totally.
1B the rest of the regular season, which benefits both goalies, right? They can both stay rested and hopefully both stay healthier as they go forward, even though we know Blackwood is out currently with injury, and
Right.
that's why Trent Miner is up from the minors. Uh, but getting shutouts somehow, so but yeah, this team's a wagon. I'm so stoked as a fan of the Avs, but
I do need to point out I am not wearing a Red Wings jersey. This is a Team Canada McKinnon jersey, so I'm not a trader.
just for
Just have to
clarification,
just
chat.
have to clarify that.
That's right. That's right.
So moving on to our second team, Dallas, probably Colorado's biggest rival, but also maybe one of the biggest gatekeepers to Colorado's perfect season, and honestly, the second best team in the league, in my opinion. I do want to talk about some of their recent performance. Let's get into that. Basically, they're 3 for 7 of their last 10, so they haven't been playing very well recently. And I think some of the underlying stats and advanced statistics will tell you that this team wasn't playing at a sustainable pace, that they were going to come back down to the mean a little bit. And so I think that's what we've been seeing. They have had a couple injuries. We have Ben out; he's day to day right now. Sagan's
Mm,
out with a torn ACL, and actually his most
yeah.
recent surgery was unsuccessful, so we probably won't see him for the rest of the year. And
Oh,
Bishop's
dang.
yeah, that's a recent update I was reading about. And then Bischel's been out since December 2nd. Originally, that was reported for 6 weeks. So we might
Yeah.
see Bischel in the next couple weeks, but it always seems like things take a little bit of time, a little bit longer, especially with how packed the season's been with
Yeah.
the Olympic break and everything. It, with all that to be said, they're still one of the best teams in the NHL. They're currently have 61 points, second in the division. They're on pace for 111 points. I don't think there's any world where this team doesn't make the playoffs. And it looks like what they would be playing the Mammoth if the playoffs were tomorrow. So that's
Let,
interesting.
yeah. No, let's check the playoff.
Oh,
Oh,
did
if they
it?
started
If they started
tomorrow,
tomorrow or today,
yeah,
even, I guess.
which we did project out playoffs based off point projections and stuff. So that's a
Totally.
little different than the current standings.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we'll get into that.
no,
I just
Dallas is going to play Minnesota because of the way that it all works.
oh,
That's like
okay.
almost pretty much locked in, which is a crazy thing that the number 2 and 3 team currently and projected to be in the NHL are going to play in the first round.
Yeah, which is great for Colorado, in my opinion. I think Minnesota will get to them and everything they have going on next, but I
Yeah,
think that'll be a great series. And yeah, this division is so stacked. Do you have
yeah,
anything else to
it's
say about Dallas?
super super top heavy with the division. Yeah, I mean Dallas looks awesome. Dallas is a weird team where they are super good. They're playing incredibly efficiently
Mhm.
in terms of their like shooting percentage, and they're getting really great goaltending from Ottinger and Casey DeSmith. They also are like really crazy. Um, it's interesting. Like if you look at the advanced stats, Dallas is underwater in expected goals for, in Fenwick, in Corsi.
Oh, really?
They're underwater in all of these advanced metrics, and part of why their point percentage is so high is because they're playing so efficiently. But really, you have to look at the power play being second in the
Mhm.
league and scoring at a 29.1% clip, which is insane.
Oof.
Um, but yeah, Dallas is really like they're I'm not saying they're not a good team. Like Dallas is a very, very good team, but they're built in such a different way with such a different style than the Avs, for example, or like than Carolina, for example,
Yeah.
or even a team like Tampa Bay. That Dallas is not built as this like possession shoot a lot team. They're gonna just grind out these wins and take advantage of the opportunities that they're presented, right? Like
Yeah.
if you give them a power play, they're probably going to score. And their PK is also super good at a 79.6% rate. So it's basically 80%, you know. But so, yeah, so Dallas is a weird team analytically where their underlying numbers are not as good as
Right.
their production has been. Um,
Do you think
and
that's going to
that
come to bite them in the playoffs? Do you think that that's going to really be exposed by other teams, or do you think that's something that they'll be able to lean on and help push them through to maybe the conference finals or the cup?
Yeah, I think that uh I think it's going to catch up to them in the
Yeah.
playoffs. I do think that teams that win in playoffs typically take advantage of their power play, are very good at their penalty kill, and get great
Hmm.
goaltending. So like from those perspectives, Dallas is set up to succeed. But I think the years past where they've run into Edmonton every year and lost, uh, I think
Right.
that Edmonton is also set up in a similar way.
Totally agree.
Except
Except
obviously
for,
Edmonton doesn't have great goaltending, but
right.
has gotten great goaltending in the playoffs against Dallas. And I think that that's an example where Edmonton has a better power play, and if they get good goaltending and penalty kill, then it's kind of like the Achilles heel for Dallas, right? So I think Dallas will not go far unless they start turning this around. And I think that those underlying numbers are a reflection
Right.
of losing important pieces for long stretches of time, right?
And
Um,
also, just to mention, just to go back to the goalie commentary, I think it's interesting right now. Jake Oettinger has a 90% save rate, 2.76 goals against, which isn't the greatest in the NHL. But I will tell
right.
you, as soon as the playoffs start, this guy will turn into a different beast and play much better than he has for the entire season. And he's
Yeah.
proven that the last two playoffs. So yeah, I just think that's an interesting thing. He's definitely someone who tends to take a step forward when the playoffs happen. So I would look to see that team being pretty daunting coming into the playoffs.
Yeah. I think as a Avs fan, the only team that does scare me in the West is Dallas. And
Agreed.
like I think we'll get into other teams. I think Minnesota is a good team, but the only team that I look at and I'm like, oh, that is a huge threat that I have no idea if we can beat them is Dallas.
Mhm.
So
Well, all right. Moving on to third, we have Minnesota currently with 61 points. And they're projected to basically be at 109 points at the end of the season. Minnesota has, they've made some pretty big moves at the beginning of the season, signed Kirill Kaprizov to one of the biggest contracts in NHL history. They recently traded for Quinn Hughes, one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Quinn Hughes is
crazy.
currently playing. Say that again.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's really crazy.
and I think part of the reason why I had kind of bet against them a little bit, I had projected them to finish sixth with only 89 points, was just because of all the unsureness of the roster, right? And maybe how the Kaprizov contract would affect everybody else on the team. But it seems that they're really finding their own and really coming into it. Obviously, Wallstead and Gustafson have been the second best goalie combo in the NHL, and Wallstead has been an absolute beast for those guys.
The
I'm
Wall of St. Paul.
one of the greatest nicknames in the NHL, in my opinion. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
You have Quinn Hughes is obviously playing well, fifth in points and third in assists for D-men this year. Kaprizov tied for fifth in goals in the NHL. And they're really starting to gel going down this, or I guess coming into the midpoint of the season. And they're going to be a pretty scary team come playoff time. And if they play Dallas, I think it's great for the Avs, but also sad for the NHL that one of these teams is going to go home in the first round because I think these two teams are great. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts about Minnesota and where they're sitting right now and where they're going to be come playoff time?
I think they're a really good team. I think they're going to be in the same position come playoff time unless
Yep.
Dallas collapses or
Right.
barring injuries, right?
Crazy
But
injuries or yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're going to be third. I think they're going to play Dallas. I think Dallas is going to beat them. But
Yep.
I think it's going to be a really close, crazy series. And honestly, that series will be defined by who plays better in goal, whether
Right.
Ottinger can do what he's done in the years past and really step up in those early rounds, or if Wallstead or Gustafson. I would assume they play Wallstead right now, but
Yeah.
it's it's really kind of a toss up of like who's their number one goalie, and it might just be that they say, "All right, it's your net, Gustafson or Wallstead
Right. Until you're not
until you
playing
get
well.
yeah, or until we lose or something like that. And if we
Yeah.
lose, we're gonna cycle, and like motivate those guys to really shut it down. Um, I mean, Quinn Hughes was obviously like a crazy pickup for them.
Totally.
Uh, they had to give up, a decent amount for him, but really not much when you consider the caliber of player that Quinn Hughes is. That is all dependent on them re-signing Quinn Hughes because he's only
Yeah.
signed through next year. So it's like, okay, if they don't get that signature that guarantees him staying there, then it's gonna and they don't win a cup with him,
Right.
it's gonna look pretty bad. So,
And I think
but
obviously the playoff performance will help dictate that contract. Like if they do super
right,
well, I can't really see Quinn Hughes leaving, but we'll see. That's to be
yeah,
determined.
yeah. But I will say that Minnesota is a gnarly place to play in the playoffs,
Yep.
especially. So,
We know that.
whoever plays them is going to be it's going to be brutal. And and yeah, I'm honestly excited to see how they do because I think that they're gonna just keep crushing, basically.
Right.
So
All right. Well, yeah, let's move on to Utah. Currently, Utah has 47 points. We predicted, or I predicted them. Sorry, not we. I won't put the blame on you. I predicted them to end the season in fifth at 93 points. They're currently in fourth with 47, and projected to have 86 points for the season. So that's -7 on my prediction. Essentially, they're right about where I thought they'd be. They started off very strong and then kind of had a pretty hard cold slide the last 10 or 20 games or so. They've
mhm.
been pretty inconsistent. They're 5 for 5 for the last 10 games, if that shows you kind of where they're at. And I think they're pretty much playing for a wild card slot. I wouldn't be surprised to see them there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you see the team, one of the teams below them, step up and beat them out for that wild card spot. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting race coming down the stretch. One side note, Utah has actually had some issues kind of filling seats in the arena. They're approximately been about 50 to 60% capacity. So a lot of times when you're watching their games, it's quite a bit quieter. I'm curious if that plays into anything or if we're just looking at a lot of schedule fatigue. They're actually 0-5 in the second game of back-to-backs this year. So
Oh
that
wow,
I thought that was an interesting stat to put in
that
there
is
just because
interesting.
obviously this season is
Huh.
pretty crazy with the Olympic break. Um,
And,
and
and
yeah,
and I also feel like they're a younger team, so you would think that they would be a little better in
right.
those short rest situations, right?
And yeah, I just think they're running into a lot of growing pains, and it's kind of, I guess, the state of affairs for the Ghosts of the Coyotes, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I think Utah's like they're like the anti-Dallas, or they're like the polarity of Dallas, if you will. Like Dallas is underwater in most advanced stats, and Utah is above water in most advanced stats. Their expected goals for is
Right.
53.98%, which is good for fourth in the NHL. Like
Wow.
only Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Colorado is above them in expected goals for, which is
I do
crazy.
want to say that every other team we're going to talk about has the unfortunate task of playing in the same division as Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota.
Yeah,
So, like in other divisions, this may be a great season, but unfortunately, you're stuck in the Central with these guys,
right,
and you got to get a lot more points. You know?
right, totally. I think also like the advanced stats being really positive for Utah, or in Dallas's case, like slightly negative, right? I think that just goes to show also the like finesse skill of the players on their
Yeah,
roster, right?
totally.
Dallas has these highly skilled finesse players that can shoot and
Hmm.
make those saucer passes across to for the backdoor tap in, right? Like they
Right.
have those players, whereas Utah, it's a little bit less refined with the player's skill set overall. Like they have good players, but like
And
Logan
also, I
Cooley's
think
been awesome. But
Dallas has a lot of, they have a really good connection between the players. It seems like, I feel
yeah,
like Utah's still building that connection, still growing together, gelling as a team.
yeah,
And yeah, so I think that's a big part of it as well, right?
yeah. But that's where like when I see their points percentage and their where their points are, and then comparing that to their advanced stats, I'm like, oh, this team just like doesn't have the maybe the chemistry, but also just they don't have those high skill
Right.
players
There's
that
no
can
Rantanen. They don't have a
right,
McKinnon. They don't have a Makar. They don't.
right,
They don't have someone like that.
or even guys like Sagan and like
Right.
Duchesne and like
Right.
like these guys that can really reliably score. Rope hints like they like Utah doesn't have players like that. Especially with depth. So that's where you have this high expected goals for, but they're not converting that into wins.
Yeah.
Because their players can't convert those expected goals into real goals, which those are the ones that matter. Turns
Right.
out,
Right.
right? So, but but yeah, so we'll see with Utah. I think they're a better luck next year team.
That's
They're
kind of
like
how I feel.
yeah, they're growing.
And I'll
They'll
be
get
honest,
there.
I think the next two teams, in my opinion, are a little bit more exciting. And I think they'll end up taking the wild card spot over the Mammoth, but only time will tell, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting right now because the Central doesn't even have a wild card team right now. If
Right.
playoffs started today, it would be uh, LA and the other Pacific team is Seattle. So it'd be Seattle and LA would be
Right.
in the playoffs right now, and it would just be the three teams at the top of the Central. that are getting in. So both, no matter who in the Central gets that fourth position, they're chasing the Pacific Division
Right.
right now, which is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that you say the Kraken just blows me away. But we'll get into that when we head over there. Moving on to Nashville Predators. Nashville currently has 44 points. Yeah, does Nashville have 44 or 45 points?
It looks like they got 44 points. It looks like Chicago's ahead of them at
Yeah,
45.
that must have changed
So that's what
as they
flipped.
played yesterday or today.
Yeah, that flipped
Um,
yesterday.
so I guess we'll just go ahead and move on to Chicago and talk about Nashville next. We'll just keep going in order. Chicago currently has 45 points, projected to have 82 points for the season. In my opinion, they're playing a little bit better than most people expected. This team's actually really exciting to me. They have a lot of young talent to build
Yeah.
on a great, strong base. Obviously, Bedard, he's the talk of the town, but you have Lev Shovanov, I think is how you say it. He's a rookie. He's sixth in points and third in assists among rookies. I think he's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
a great
Cool.
talent. Yeah. I think he gets kind of put, in the shadow of Bedard quite often, since
Yeah.
it seems like most of the news coming out of there is about that guy.
Right.
But I think they're playing better than expected. They've had some big wins early, including twice over the Stars, once over the Red Wings. But they've also lost to teams like the Blues and Ottawa. Kind of shows
Yeah.
that they have a long ways to go. Excuse me, and they're a little inconsistent. But again, this is a team I'm excited to see in the next 2 to 5 years. Really see what happens to these
Right.
guys. I do want to say that Bedard and Nazir have both missed some stretches, so I think they might even have more points than they do currently had they not run into some of the injury stuff. But I think you're going to notice as we go through these teams, injuries are going to be a big point just because of the condensed schedule and the nature of the NHL. It's a tough sport and high
Yeah.
contact. So, what are your thoughts about
Yeah.
Chicago? Um,
I think you got to be stoked if you're a Chicago fan.
yeah,
That's my thoughts. You're seeing the
trending
team
upwards.
take a step forward, which is what you've been wanting to see for the last
Totally.
since you drafted Bedard, basically. But
Yep.
last year I think you were pretty disappointed with what happened with the team, and this year you've got to be stoked. I actually have on my men's league team. There's a Chicago fan,
Okay.
and he's so hyped. He's like, "This is awesome." I was talking to him and he was like, "Yeah, we might even make the playoffs." Like he was so excited to just
Yeah.
have even the possibility of being in the picture, right? And I think that's where the Chicago fan base is at. It's been
Totally.
a while now, and so they are just really excited to kind of see that positive momentum, that positive step. And yeah, but if Bedard doesn't get hurt on that weird face off
Right.
with Shen there with the Blues, you're maybe looking at a team that is above Utah, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't take much to imagine that they'd be able to get 4 or 5 more points and be closer to that
To that
wild card
wild card.
cutoff
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm happy for him. I think you got to talk about Spencer Knight a little bit too with Chicago. Like
Hmm.
that guy totally looks like the goalie of the future. Goalies are weird; they have up and down years, so we'll see how he does over the
And they
next like
tend
five
to
years.
play a little
But
bit better as they get older, correct? Like, whereas,
yeah,
you're looking in the primes a little bit on the younger side for forwards and centers,
yep,
D-men, but your goalies they're kind of reaching their peak a little bit later. So, just kind of an
yeah,
interesting point.
which is hopeful, honestly, for Spencer Knight. Like
Yeah,
if his peak is still years in the future, Chicago's looking pretty awesome.
they're
So
stoked. Yeah, they're stoked.
yeah, so that's it. That's one of those trades that really seems like it worked out well for both sides. Where Seth Jones is crushing it for the Panthers, and Spencer
Yeah,
Knight is crushing it for the Blackhawks. Right, like that seems like a trade that was both teams won,
totally.
which is nice to see always. So
Well, all right,
yeah,
moving on to number 6. This is Nashville currently with 44 points. I had projected Nashville to end with 82. They're currently projected for 82. I just want to make that clear. My
yeah.
projection is dead on halfway through the
So
season
far, that's
so
great.
far. um, but yeah, I like this Nashville team. I think they could potentially find themselves in a playoff spot, but they have a lot of work to do to get there. I think this team has a little bit of an edge to them, even though they are rebuilding. They have some pieces to build around Forsberg, Stamkos, Nyquist. I think they're playing on par to what we predicted. This team is scrappy, and I think they can win against anybody, but also they can be inconsistent and lose to some of the worst teams in the league. I think Soros has been a little inconsistent with his play at times, and overall, I don't think they have a lot of depth, but they can be competitive against anybody on any given night. So I think just kind of seeing where they end up in this kind of wild card race will be interesting as we move to the end of the season.
Totally. Yeah. Steven Stamkos. He's got 18 goals. Like,
Yeah,
at half season mark, 18 goals. You're like, okay, 36 goals, like full season. That is honestly kind of what you sign up for when you sign or when Nashville signed Stamkos. That's what
right.
around what they were hoping to get, that 30 to 40 goal guy. So, I feel like Nashville has really been putting it together, right? They're like, what are they in their last 10 here? They're 6-4 in their last 10. But I think beyond that, they started the year really rough, and the
Yeah,
last 20-ish games they've really made a big push to get out of the basement, because they were at last
they
place
were in
for
the
a little
bummer
while.
bin.
Yeah, totally. So they're kind of coming back. So good for them. Shows leadership and resolve in that dressing room, and with the coaching staff. And so I kind of honestly hope Nashville keeps putting it together,
Totally.
and makes that kind of middle section of the Central more exciting, right? It would be cool to see Utah, Chicago, and Nashville really pushing
Yeah,
each other to get in that wild card race.
I agree. And I think it would be awesome to see the wild card be coming out of the Central just because, it's our division.
Yeah,
So
that would be fun.
so moving on to the next team on our list, it brings me a little bit of pride that this team is deep in the bummer bin. This is there are very few teams I actively root against in the NHL, and this is one of them.
Right,
But St.
totally. They're
Louis
like,
coming in seventh, currently with 42 points. I predicted them to have 75 points. Oh, sorry. I predicted them to have 96 points for the season, and they're on pace for 75. So basically, I was way off. I thought they were going to be much better. Bennington has played pretty terrible throughout the
dude,
season. He currently has a .871 save percentage, 43rd in the league out of 50. Obviously, I was only looking at the top 50 goalies. So, and then sixth in the league in goals against. How did this man get picked for Team Canada?
sixth worst in the
Yeah,
league in
yeah,
goals
sorry.
against.
Sorry. Yeah. I
No,
look at
I see
I
where
look
you were
at
there,
goals
but just to
against as a
specify.
bad stat, so being high on that list is intrinsically bad.
Yeah,
But yes,
yeah, it's
interesting
crazy.
kind of the downfall of Bennington in St. Louis. And I don't know what to say. It feels good.
Man, it feels, as Avs fans, it feels good. I can't believe Canada picked him. I mean, I know he's got the big game moxie and all of the things, uh, but you've got other goalies that also have big game moxie and have won. I mean, they are taking Darcy Kemper, but Darcy Kemper has a cup. Logan Thompson was on the team that won the cup with Vegas and was their number one throughout the season, and then did have to play in the playoffs. But Aiden Hill had played so well that he,
Right.
so I just think it's interesting that Canada's GM is St. Louis's GM, and that
Right. And I
ended
want to
up
point
the
out,
way
it's
it
not
ended up.
like this is a small sample size of games, right?
No.
Like he's played terrible pretty much the entire season. And I guess it kind of brings the question of, is this St. Louis's turning point? Are they in for a full rebuild? Who do they have to build around right now? Like, what is the future of this team? To me, it seems like they're sellers and they got to figure something out. But
Yeah, I would sell if I was St. Louis.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I just don't think that they have it. But it's weird that they made the push last year for playoffs and then
Right.
are so bad this year. And like, I think Jim Montgomery's a great coach. He's got a good
Hmm.
track record. Um, but yeah, I honestly have been blissfully not paying attention very much to St. Louis. I am
Right.
so happy that they're in the realm of obscurity this year, and I love that Bennington is this like bummer bin goalie.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't be. I have to say, all due respect to him, I wouldn't be surprised if he like has a huge game when Canada needs him to have a huge game, and
I know
and
that
takes
they turn
takes
it
him the
around for
goal.
the
You
rest of
know,
the season.
yeah,
That
it's
was
like I,
essentially what happened in the Four Nations last year, right? Like he had a great Four
yeah,
Nations and then the team played amazing the rest of the season and
right,
somehow like
totally,
edged out a spot in the playoffs. But I
yeah.
I don't see that being the future for the St. Louis Blues and Bennington, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for them to do that this year, but yeah, I he could turn it around. I do think he's a good goalie, like
Oh yeah.
overall historically, and
Yeah,
but it's kind of like is this his great decline as he gets a little
right.
older, and I kind of hope it is because I don't like the guy based off of what he did and how he acted with Nazem Kadri and
Yeah.
that whole series, and um, I thought all of that was despicable, but that's the way that goes. It's sports.
A network, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on to the last team in the Central Division. Actually, in my opinion, one of the bigger surprises of the league and in this division, we have Winnipeg currently with 37 points in the bottom of the bummer bin of the Central Division. They're on pace for 71 points. I had predicted them to do much better and be on pace for 100 minus 29 on my prediction. Probably one of the worst predictions I have done yet.
Dude, sometimes it feels good to be so wrong.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I think uh, let's get into it. So they're tied for last in points with the Canucks of the entire league. We obviously Hellebuck had a pretty major injury at the beginning of the season, missed time.
Yeah.
Barron has been on and off the ice with injuries most of the season, but I don't think you can blame this on injuries. I think this team, I don't, I think they played much better than they were last year and rode Hellebuck to the playoffs. Obviously, he didn't compete that well in the playoffs last year, so they got knocked out pretty early, and they just haven't been able to put it together this year. It seems like they kind of get outplayed in most parts of the game, and I think they need a little bit more depth. And I guess we'll kind of see what they do nearing the trade deadline. Are they sellers? Are they buyers? I'm just not sure with this team because they have some
Yeah.
pieces, but they they don't have a lot of depth, and I really think that's the issue, right? And as we know, that kills you.
Yeah. They don't have the depth. They don't have the pieces. They're both offensively and defensively. Their depth is awful. Their top guys are awesome. Mark
Yeah,
Scheifele's sick. Like
but
that
that's
guy's
every
awesome.
NHL team, right? Like the top
Right.
six on any NHL team are good. Like that's just
Well, at least the top pairings, right? The
right.
top the top three and two for the top line.
Yeah,
But Winnipeg, I would say, doesn't even have a very good second line. They
right.
go from having a pretty good top line that's probably around 15th. It's in the top half of the league as far as top lines is concerned, right? But then their second line, I would say, is in the bottom half, and their third and fourth lines are definitely down there. And then defensively, it's the same thing. Their
Right.
second pairing is not that great, and their third pairing is absolutely garbage. And so, it's like, just speaking frankly, and when you have Hellebuck getting hurt and then kind of needing some
Yep.
time as he's getting back in the flow of things, his numbers haven't been superhuman this year, and so that's what happens when you have a guy who isn't playing at a superhuman level anymore, who was frankly uplifting that team that shouldn't have been as good last year and now is facing the reality of like, oh, this is what happens when everybody plays average or when our good players play just like pretty good, not exceptional.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
think it
I
brings
think
an interesting point of like some of these what I would consider god tier or god level goalies that we've
right.
talked about over the last decade. Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, Hellebuck. You're kind of seeing them take a step back, and some of these younger, newer goalies kind of coming to the forefront or the spotlight. And I think it's interesting, and I think it's awesome that we're seeing some of these younger guys, or even maybe not younger guys, but guys, Wedgwood, for example. He's playing amazing, and he's not someone who we've talked about over the last few years as one of the greatest goalies in the league. But currently is. And I just think it's interesting that, you know, we have this spread of goalies right now, and there's just so many good goalies. It's incredible.
Yeah, the Vezina race is pretty open right now.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you have Wedgwood, you have Blackwood that are both putting together great campaigns, but you also have Logan Thompson putting together a
Yes.
really awesome campaign, and our buddy Philip Grubauer pushing for it. So we'll see. I agree that it's really interesting to see the goalie spread, and we'll see if that trend continues or
Mhm.
if this is kind of a 1 year thing, or after the Olympics, if people come back and
Totally.
enter lockdown mode, we'll see how that develops basically. But I'm here for Winnipeg and St. Louis being bad. Winnipeg, I am their underlyings haven't been good for a while, and so it's kind of
Right.
honestly like pretty good to see them be
About
where
where
they
they're
should
supposed to
be.
be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, that wraps up the Central Division. Just a couple notes. Again, I think, the Central Division is a powerhouse. I think it's the best division in hockey right now. And yeah, I'll send it to you for the Pacific Division. Is that where we're headed?
yeah, Pacific is next.
Awesome.
I just want to on that Central Division. We touched base on this a little bit, but the Dallas playing Minnesota in the first round and then being the second and third best teams in the league
Yeah.
is exactly why the playoff format should change back to 1 through 8.
Do better,
Um,
Bettman.
yeah,
This sucks.
this is ridiculous, and I hear the people that are out there saying, "Oh, well, you have to beat every team no matter what in the playoffs to win the cup." And it's like, yeah, you do. But when one division is so much worse, it creates less wear and tear, less
Hmm.
exhaustion on the team that gets out of that division side. And then the division that is better has a lot more wear and tear and is much more tired when they get to the conference finals. And I
Right.
think you've seen that with Dallas the last couple of years when they've gone against Edmonton. They've been exhausted having to play these Central Division juggernauts in the two rounds, and then Edmonton just gets
Yep.
to coast through with LA in the first round every year, or a team that is just like kind of mediocre. So, anyways,
I
I
mean,
think that's a
the thought two of the top three teams in the NHL will not make it to the cup. Like,
it,
or
it's a shame.
it's a shame. Or even,
Yeah,
yeah, or even the conference finals. You know what I mean? Yeah, it blows me away a little bit. So
yeah, it's a shame that one of those two teams is gone after the first round.
yeah,
It's like I know that the NHL feels like they're trying to increase rivalries, and I think that the NHL should prioritize putting the best product on the ice at the most impactful time of the year, and
totally.
that is going to increase ratings. People are tired of seeing Edmonton and LA or Edmonton and Vegas. People want to see these inter division matchups that put the best teams in a position to advance the farthest, and then that's what's going to create the best hockey for the longest period of time, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I mean, I would
So
also say there's a reason that the majority of other sports do it that way, right?
yeah,
So
totally, because it's better.
as it works better. So
Right. So, but
good
with
point.
that,
Yeah, thanks for bringing
we
that up.
yeah, I was just like, that's a great example of that. But we can switch to the Pacific Division.
Great.
Right now in first, we've got Vegas. They've got 52 points. The drop off from the Pacific to the Central, or from the Central to the Pacific, is steep. So Vegas is your division leaders at 52 points. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10, and they've only got a +3 goal differential, which is
I just want to say it's crazy that Vegas is 21 points behind the Avs. Like just
yeah,
comparing top team to top team in the division,
yeah,
there are 21 points. That's like what, 10 games, 10 plus games of, of
yeah,
points that they're behind.
yeah. It's
Just to
11,
put it
it's
in
10 and a half
perspective.
games essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
mean their goal differential is awful. They have a +3 goal differential, and it's like the Utah Mammoth have a +10 goal differential. It's crazy that the Pacific is where it's at. Frankly, is so weak. Vegas, their underlyings are pretty average. 51.87 expected goals for percentage. They're slightly above 50% in Corsi and Fenwick, and they've been buoyed by their power play, which is at 25.4%, which is good for fifth in the NHL. So a really strong power play from Vegas that's kind of floating them along.
Yeah.
Eichel and Marner are having big years. They're both tied at 46 points. And then Hurdle and Dorofeev are tied for their team lead at 16 goals. So their top guys are performing pretty well.
In the few
And
games
then,
that I've watched Vegas, Eichel and Marner definitely seem to have quite the connection as far as
yeah,
like just some of the passes I've seen, goals scored. I'm just
they're
like, dang.
on the power play. They're crazy. They're
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
It's ridiculous, you know? And I got to give a shout out to Mark Stone, even though I don't actually like playing against that guy or at all. That guy's got 15 goals in 27 games. He was
wow.
hurt, but that kind of production is crazy. I mean, he's
That's pretty
scoring.
standard for him, right? Like get hurt, score a bunch of goals, get hurt, come back for the playoffs.
Yeah, totally, totally. He's in his mid-season hibernation right now.
Yeah,
He's playing crazy when he plays, so gotta give
that's awesome.
the credit where credit's due. And then Vegas, kind of one of the big themes for them, I think, is that they're having goalie troubles. You know,
Yeah,
Aiden Hill got hurt early and has a pretty significant lower body injury. They were hoping he'd be back at the end of January, but he's still listed as week to week. So we don't really know what we're in for there. I feel like lower body injuries, when they're week to week, they can really stretch on for
yeah,
long periods of time. And we all know how the NHL is with injury policy. So,
yeah.
and
And
then
turns out goaltending is important for winning games.
very, yeah.
Turns
And
out.
then,
So
and then Schmid and Hart, the two goalies that have been kind of subbing in, are under 900 save percentage.
yeah,
So anytime I think that you have a sub 900 save percentage as your main goaltending option, you're gonna you're gonna struggle. It's gonna hold you back from reaching elite levels or top tier levels. So yeah, so Vegas, basically, to sum up, great power play. They have a really great top line, very poor goaltending. I think that's kind of going to be their downfall.
do you think
So,
that if
what do you
Aiden
think?
Hill was healthy all season, that the goaltending would be any better, or do you think that
So,
I'll be honest, I have never been that impressed with Aiden Hill. I know a lot of people think he's amazing, but
yeah,
I
I
just
actually predicted them to have 113 points
oh,
and be the best team in the conference at the beginning of the year,
okay.
because I thought Aiden Hill was going to put it together and was going
Yeah,
to be awesome and be in the Vesna conversation. I don't think coming back from injury, he's going to have that opportunity or be able to establish elite
right.
play. Maybe for the playoffs, he'll get there, but I thought he was going to be able to put it together. So
No,
they're
you're
on pace for 99 points. So I'd be 14 off,
yeah.
14 points underwater. But what do you think?
I just think that this team is, I hate to compare everyone to the Avs, but it's what I know best. But I think they're similar to where the Avs were last year. I think they need to gel. I think, Marner being on this team longer, obviously being able to get through these injuries, I think this team will be really good next year. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
If they can get healthy. So,
yeah, yeah.
and
I
not to
agree
say that
with
they're
that.
not good this year because they are leading their division. Just to
Yeah,
clarify that they are good. It's just
right.
I think they're one step behind most of the top teams.
I expected. I think we both expected them to be elite, and they're
Hmm.
good, but they're
Hmm.
not elite. And so that's the difference there. Any other thoughts on Vegas, or move on to Edmonton?
No, I just think it's funny that I feel like now I'm talking about Minnesota. Thought I would be talking about the Knights this year. Like
Right,
I
totally.
thought I'd be talking about Colorado, Dallas, and Vegas, but no,
Yeah,
it's Minnesota instead, which is cool. It's cool to
yeah,
get some parity and variety in the league, and yeah.
yeah, yeah. Cool to see a team kind of come up to
Hmm.
a little bit more than expected. But let's talk about Edmonton. Edmonton is the definition of mediocrity, except that they have two of the top five players in the world and
Right,
arguably the best player in the world with
right.
McDavid, and playing at an elite level. So let me go through these to
Yeah,
illustrate this point. Edmonton is 5-4-1 on their last 10. They have a 0 goal differential. They're totally even, but they're second in their division at 51 points.
it's
They have
crazy.
a they have a 50.65 expected goals for percentage, which is basically dead on with their goal differential, right? They're not expected to score more, and they just haven't been. They're scoring basically at exactly the clip and giving up at exactly the clip they should be. Their Fenwick and Corsi is basically dead on 50%. And then the thing that is floating them is that they're first in power play with
Mhm.
a scorching 33.9%, which
That's
would set
disgusting.
the record. The record all time is 32.4%, which was set by Edmonton in 2022-23. And then you have McDavid tied for first in points, second in goals, Draisaitl with fifth in points, 10th in goals, and Bouchard with fourth in defenseman points. So it's like you take, and I think Bouchard is floated by playing with
Yeah, of
Draisaitl and
course.
McDavid, but not that he's not a good player, but he's not the fourth best offensive defenseman in the NHL without McDavid and Draisaitl. But that's where you look at McDavid and the season that he's having, and that's where you say this guy is, one of the leading MVP candidates. You have McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini that are
Yeah.
kind of, in my mind, the clear MVP candidates. And you look at those stats and you're like, okay, well, maybe McDavid is the most valuable player, especially to his team this year,
Mm.
comparing to McKinnon. And that's where you have the debate of what is the MVP award and all of that.
Right, right. All the nuances, yeah, that follow.
Right. Right. And then the last point that I have for Edmonton is, of course, the trade that they made of Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry.
Yeah.
Jarry immediately gets hurt, so it's hard to judge that trade right now. The reports I saw said that he was close to returning, but Calvin Pickard has been bad. He's at
Mhm.
87.2 save percentage. Connor Ingram has been okay with a limited sample size. He's at 89.2 save percentage. But if this team is going to do anything, they need McDavid to keep playing god tier hockey and Draisaitl, and they need Tristan Jarry to come in and have an over 900 save percentage, which he did have a 906 in 16 games this year. His career is
Yeah,
909. If Jarry comes in and puts up a 909 or 910, this team will make noise in the playoffs. I mean, when you have a guy like McDavid and a guy like Draisaitl, and you get solid goaltending like that, that's what's going to happen. But this team, don't be fooled, is very mediocre overall as a team. But what do you think about Edmonton?
yeah, I guess I'll start with the goaltending. You had to trade Skinner, even if Jari doesn't work out. They've how many seasons did they try with Skinner? They made
Yeah,
it to the cup, never won. It's proven Skinner was not their guy. Nothing against Skinner. I actually like Skinner. I like watching the guy. I think he's a goofball, and
yeah, that
but
stash.
they needed to try something different. And bummer that he got hurt immediately. I am kind of curious to see how that works out. I will
Mm-hmm.
say there's a lot of pressure in Edmonton right now for them to win. I'm curious what it's like stepping into that atmosphere. Maybe not as crazy as like playing for Toronto, but I do think that playing for Edmonton, there's a lot of pressure. So I'm curious how Jari handles that. The McDavid McKinnon comparison, I'm not even going to get into that. All I'm going to say is those are the only two dudes in the world that when they decide they want to score a goal, they will score a goal. It
Yeah,
it is fucking amazing that we live at a time where we can watch both McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl, Makar. Like, what a cool time to watch hockey. And I just want to point that out that like I go on
yeah,
the internet and people are always arguing over who's better, but it's like, man, can we just appreciate that these guys are fucking phenomenal
yeah.
and the hockey that they play is incredible. But not surprised that Edmonton's mediocre. I think they have a lot of holes, especially defensively. I don't see them as a cup contender, but you never know. Like you said, when you have people like McDavid, Draisaitl, if they could get the goaltending up a little bit, they could make waves. But I just don't think they're quite on the level of Dallas or uh, Colorado.
And
You know.
and this is where that playoff format matters because
Yep.
if Edmonton only has to play, right now they're projected to play Seattle, and
Yeah.
then they play the winner of Vegas and San Jose, and it's like if they only have to beat those guys, and they get 9-1, a 910 save percentage out of Jari, I could really easily see them in the conference finals.
Right.
And that's where it's just like that the playoff seeding matters because I don't see Edmonton beating a Minnesota and a
Right.
Dallas and a
No way.
Colorado to
No
get
way.
through to the cup or even the conference finals. But I can see them beating Vegas and Seattle or Vegas and San Jose.
I guess, do you think
Um,
they're pretty locked in? You don't see a world where they get passed? I mean, outside, obviously, when I ask these type of questions, that's barring any
yeah,
crazy injuries or,
yeah.
things that are
I,
just out of their control.
I don't think anything on the Pacific side is
Okay.
guaranteed. I think Edmonton. You know, I'm never going to doubt McDavid and Draisaitl.
Nope.
Like that's something that the last couple years has been proven, right?
Yeah.
But I am certainly not going to say that I think for sure Edmonton's coming out of the Pacific. I think
Right.
that they are one of the. I mean, them in Vegas are the most likely to come out of there,
Do you know how
but
much
I don't
longer
know.
Jari is supposed to be out? have not looked that up. I
He's
can look
supposed
real
to
quick.
be he's supposed to be back soon.
Oh,
He's
okay.
he's kind of
So
been
hopefully
moved.
that doesn't linger for them.
Yeah, he's kind of been moved to day, and that I think he's going to be coming back by the
Yeah.
end of the month at the latest, but maybe even this week. I would be surprised to see him this week. I think probably next week we'll see him.
Okay.
So, do you want to move on to San Jose?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it. San Jose is a pleasant surprise. How fun!
I'm
The Sharks
secretly
are
rooting
pretty
for him.
good. Yeah, yeah, totally.
I like Celebrini. I think he's sick. He's so sick to watch play hockey.
He's really
Excited to
good.
see him fucking mature and come into his own.
Yeah, yeah. So San Jose 6-4 in their last 10. These next stats are like the mark of a young, immature hockey team, which is
Yeah.
what San Jose is. Uh,
Yep.
they have a negative 14 goal differential.
Whew.
They have a expected goals for percentage of 44.75.
Nice
They're
guys.
super underwater in Corsi and Fenwick, and those stats. They're second to last in expected goals for, and last in Corsi and Fenwick, and so they're like really analytically not a good team.
Do you
But you go ahead.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, at some point, do you want to explain what Corsi and Fenwick is? I'm not sure if everyone
Yeah.
understands what
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the advanced statistics and all of that means. I know we talk
Yeah.
about them, but just in case anybody's watching at home and isn't sure.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's good. The Corsi is I actually copy and pasted an exact definition specifically
Nice.
because I felt like it was important to define
Well,
those
these
two.
stats get a little crazy too, so
Right. So Corsi is a statistic measuring all shot attempts. So it's shots on goal, misses,
Mhm.
and block shots, uh, versus shot attempts given up. Right. So if you
Right.
have an over 50% Corsi, that means you have more shot attempts than the other team in that game. Or the stats I'm mentioning are season stats for the team. So
Mhm.
that's every game that they've played
And
so
just
far.
to
Right.
note, that is only at even strength, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And it also it kind of gauges puck possession, right?
Yeah.
Uh Fenwick is a stat that I actually kind of like as well. It's interesting. I mentioned both of them because I don't know which one I like more, but Fenwick is the same as Corsi, except it's also unblocked shot attempts. So rather than having blocked shots in there, it's
Right.
just unblocked. So it's like misses and shots on goal, and that's it.
You could almost say it's like a little
Rather,
bit more of a pure stat if you're looking specifically at a team.
right, right. So I say both because yeah, Fenwick kind of is a refined measure of puck possession
Mhm.
compared to Corsi, but I think that they're so close in what they show that it's just worth mentioning both things. Essentially, when you look them up, every Corsi and Fenwick of a team are like within
Pretty
a
similar.
1.5% of
Yeah.
each other, and often are like right
Yeah, I
close.
would say
So
Fenwick's kind of like your pure scoring potential, whereas Corsi kind of includes like it includes block shots. So you're getting a little bit more of like what reality shows, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like
yeah,
pure stats versus like realistic stats in a way. But
totally,
anyway, sorry
totally.
for the sidetrack. I just
That's
wanted
okay.
to make sure that everyone understood what we're talking about when we talk.
Yeah, that's good. But so San Jose bad in both those. But the thing that is making San Jose a team that is vying for a playoff spot, and they're kind of oscillating between third in the Pacific in that first wild card, is the man we've mentioned, Macklin Celebrini. Uh, third
The
in the
freak.
NHL in points, 24 goals. He's on a 13 game point streak right now. And this is the craziest stat, Kenny. He's got 70 points. The next closest player on their team is Tyler Toffoli, who has 31 points.
Oh my.
Like
He's over doubled his.
it's a
It's
39
crazy.
point difference between him and the next highest scorer on his team.
Talk about putting the team on your back. Whew.
Totally. Which that is the basis of his MVP candidacy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, 70 points is a great year. He's third. Like, he's going to be MVP candidate on that. But like the
Right.
thing that boosts him to be comparable to McDavid and McKinnon is the fact that he is so much better than anyone else on his team.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
when you think
If you
about
look at
most valuable
MVP,
player,
yeah, if you look at MVP through the lens of the best player for that team, like he provides the most value for the team that he's on.
yeah, yeah,
It's pretty hard to argue that, right? Because while
yeah,
McKinnon has so many points and so many goals and so many assists, he plays with Natchez, he plays with Makar, yeah.
right.
So it's just,
And
yeah,
and
that's a
same with
fascinating stat.
McDavid. McDavid's
Yeah,
got Draisaitl.
Drysaitel,
McDavid's got
Bouchard,
Bouchard.
Nugent
McDavid's
Hopkins.
got Hyman and Nugent Hopkins. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, but Celebrini's got
you got
Tyler
nobody.
Toffoli. You know.
Wow, that is a crazy stat. Cool.
So yeah, yeah. And then the last thing, the goaltending for San Jose, it's not great. Askarov is kind of their starter. He's at an 8.95 right now. Save percentage. Nedeljkovic, their backup, is at an 8.90. I think that's okay for them. I believe Askarov is going to be a good goalie. And so I think just keep putting him in,
Yeah.
let him build his skill and confidence level and getting more NHL experience. And he's going to get better and better. So I think that's their guy. And if he can even, save, 10% more shots and get that to a 905,
Right.
they're going to be real dangerous.
Yeah,
So
the few San Jose games I've seen Askarov make some absolutely insane saves, but then also, let a couple of soft ones in. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it's just consistency and, building trust in the net and all the things.
yeah,
So
the dude's good,
yeah.
but he's inconsistent. And that's what, and it fits with the theme of San Jose. They got a lot of good dudes, but they're young and inconsistent. But all right, moving on to Seattle. Seattle's got 48 points. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10. They have a negative
Wow.
7 goal differential. Yeah, they're pushing right now. Seattle, remember, started out really bad, and so they're
Yeah.
pushing. They've got really the last place expected goals for. They're at 43.69% goals for percentage, and then they're second to last in Corsi and Fenwick. So they're kind of, it's them and San Jose at the bottom of those rankings. And then the thing that's kind of keeping them going scoring wise is they're ninth on the power play at 22.8%, but then they're last on the PK. So
Yeah.
Seattle is kind of an up and down team, which is kind of right where they're at point wise.
They have had some injuries though.
Yep,
Obviously every team has, but I think Capo Caco was out for a while and
yep,
Everly was out for a while, if I
yeah.
remember right. So just to put some things in perspective.
Which is crazy because Everly is still the team leader in points. Him and Beniers are tied at 28, and Everly has 15 goals, which is the team lead. But Seattle is a truly like by committee scoring team. They have 14 guys with 10 points or more,
Phew.
um, and that says points. I might have misnoted that. It might
Yeah,
actually be 14 guys with 10 goals or more.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, they kind of rely on everybody to pitch in a little bit. But the reason this team, which we kind of mentioned a little bit, is looking at a playoff spot is because their goaltending has been really good. Philip Grubauer, Grub,
Rube.
he's found his form again. He's at a 925 save percentage, which is third in the NHL.
This man will
Uh,
not be denied a starting spot in the NHL. He
dude,
just
it's
he
crazy.
just will not be denied.
Yeah, and Joey Daccord has been good. He's been okay to good, depending on how you
Yeah,
rate save percentage. But he's at a 903, and he was injured for a while, and he's back and kind of finding his groove. But when you have two goalies that are putting up over 900 save
you're stoked.
percentages, you're stoked. You're going to be in a good spot. And with Grube putting up a 925, I mean,
Yeah.
it's absurd. So I'm honestly happy for the guy.
Don't
He's
forget, I mean, Grube, what, he won a cup with the Caps, not as the starting goalie, but
Yep,
he also played pretty well in his tenure in Colorado. Not quite what we
yeah,
wanted, but I just, yeah, I don't think he's a bad goalie by any means. I just think he's getting a little old, and it's really cool to see
yeah,
him finding his form. I always liked Grube when he played for the Avs. So
yeah, totally. So yeah, I'm kind of. I mean, we live in Portland, Oregon, so I'm kind of pulling for Seattle. They're the closest team.
yeah,
I'm pulling for them to make a push. So I'm happy for them. They're like the true grinders of the league. They don't have any star power or anything like that. They just are trying to
just
work
mining.
as a unit. Yeah. Um, so I gotta say I love the atmosphere Seattle's created for their
It's
games.
so
They've got a
good.
Yeah. So shout out to the Seattle, kind of marketing team and production
Hmm.
team because
Yeah, their
it's
brand
really
is
a
so
fun.
on point.
Yeah.
They've created a very like integrated atmosphere and brand with the city and the people. And honestly, you look at some of the issues that Utah has had with getting butts in the seats, and I think there's a
Yeah.
drastic difference in the branding and the atmosphere that they bring to the games. And I always, I look forward to going to see Seattle games. I think it's so fun. And honestly, I even think it rivals the experience in Ball Arena. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think they've done a
Yeah.
really good job up there. I hope to see them do well and produce.
Yeah. Agreed. You got any other thoughts on Seattle or should we move on?
Now, just they have a special place in my heart for being from the Pacific Northwest and being the local hockey team for us. So always
Totally.
got to cheer for them when they're not playing the Avs.
Yep. Um, all right, next up is LA. 46 points right now. They're 4-5-1 with a -6 goal differential. And LA is a weird team. They're actually pretty high in expected goals for. They are, let's see, I think they're fourth or no, they're sixth in expected goals for at 52.42 expected goals for percentage. They're fourth in Corsi and fifth in Fenwick. So they're drive and play, but I think this is kind of like Utah. They just don't have those skilled finesse
Yeah.
guys that can capitalize on those chances that they're generating. Adrian Kempe has 35 points, 15 goals, and he's their scoring leader. Kevin Fiala is their goal leader. He's got 16 goals. Special shout out to one of the original Rats, Corey Perry. He's
Father
he's
time
for
himself.
he's in his 40s, dude. Yeah, but he's got 10 goals.
Hey, good for him.
So that's real good for a 40-year-old in the league. So, and then they are terrible on special teams, 27th in PK and
Mhm.
28th in their power play. So I think that's really what's dragging LA down and why they aren't near the the higher, echelons of the Pacific is they just
Right.
are so bad on those special teams. And then Kemper has cooled off since coming back from injury. He got Rantanen, and then since then he hasn't been as good. He's at a 905, and then their backup is good. Anton Forsberg, he's reliable with a 900. So they're kind of getting pretty okay to good goaltending. But
Yeah.
what lifted them up last year was Kemper was excellent. So
Yeah, Kemper definitely has taken a step back from where he was last year. Last year, he looked incredible. I remember watching quite a few games of that first series and just being like, man, this guy is a freak.
yeah,
He's also won a cup as the starting goalie. So,
totally.
never count him out. He's obviously played in the big games. Yeah, this is a surprise to me. I thought LA was going to be a little bit better than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just surprised by this. At this point in the season, obviously we still have half a season to go. None of these spots are set in stone yet, except for maybe the Avs. But
Yeah, this division is interesting on the point projections for the end of the year. All of the teams are negative from what I thought they would do at the beginning of the
uh,
year, except for Seattle and San Jose. So,
that's
so
crazy.
all of these teams are underperforming I what I thought they would do, which is pretty wild. Yeah,
They're also losing Kopitar, right? So I know that
his last year.
that's been like not to say that that's affecting their play, but it has been kind of the through line in most of their games that I've watched. It's always, oh, it's Kopitar this, Kopitar that. I'm curious to see what the future holds for LA.
Yeah, they're in a transition. Moving on to Anaheim.
Yep.
Dude, they're cratering. They got 45 points right now. Started off so promising, but they're 1-8-1 in their last 10. They've got a negative 18 goal differential. All of their stats are very average. They're basically 50% expected goals for.
Yeah.
Their Corsi and their Fenwick are kind of right at that 50% mark. They're 25th in the penalty kill and 24th in power play. So they're just kind of an average team, but their defense is so awful. Leo
Yeah.
Carlson is cooling off. He's putting together a great season. You love to see him take a step forward. He's got 44 points and 18 goals, and then Cutter Gauthier has 20 goals, which leads the team. They've got 6 players with over 10 goals, which is pretty good. But yeah, Anaheim, their defense is just awful, and their goaltending has not been great. In fact, it's been bad. Lucas Dostal has cooled off. He's at an 8.87 save percentage. Ville Husso is at an 8.84, and Peter Mrazek is at an 8.58. Mrazek hasn't really played that much, but yeah, you look at the back end of what's going on in Anaheim, and you're just like, well,
That's tough.
that's why they're losing games, and that's
Yeah.
why their negative 18 goal differential is because they don't have it on the back end. So
Yeah, those
they're
goalie
fun.
numbers look tough. I watched Dostal in the beginning of the season, and I was like, man, this guy looks real good. So he must have definitely cooled off a little bit.
Yeah, he's cooled off a lot, and I mean, part of it is their defense is just awful,
Yeah.
you know. So,
But hey, they
um,
brought back the cool mascot. I love this mascot for the Ducks. So I
yep,
have to say, good job on that.
yeah, yeah, and like I think Joel Quenneville will get them turned around eventually. I think this is a team that they're just still in that building phase. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with them next year. I think Anaheim is 5 points under my projection for them or my prediction for them. So they're kind of right where I thought they would be, more or less. 5 points isn't that far off.
Right.
So,
I also think it's funny
um,
looking at most of these lists, pretty much about the inflection point of each division is right about when the goalies go below 90% save rate. It's right
totally.
about where you hit the,
Yep.
the midpoint of the division. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a correlation there.
yeah, definitely.
And then moving on to Calgary, they're at 40 points. They've been bad all year, basically. I don't know. Yeah, they're 5-5 in their last 10, negative 19 goal differential. They're underwater in goals for percentage. They're underwater in they're actually slightly above 50% in Corsi and Fenwick. They're 7th in their penalty kill, but they're last on their power play.
Wait, they're
Kadri's
last in the league in power play?
yeah, last in the
Wow.
league.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't have the skill guys. That's really the tale of Calgary is they just don't have the guys that can do it. I mean, Kadri's
Is
leading
Kadri
the
1C or is he 2C on that team?
he's 2C,
Okay.
but he's leading the team in points at 32, but he's also second in plus is second worst in plus minus
Ooh.
at negative 16. So, yeah, it's you look at Jonathan Huberdeau who only has 8 goals, like it's just one of those things where you look at that Matthew Tkachuk trade that they made and they just got
Yep.
fleeced. I mean,
Yep.
Huberdeau has been awful for them. Mackenzie Weegar has been awful for them. And so, yeah, they didn't get the return that they were expecting. And that's why they're terrible. That's really the long and short of it.
Yeah, which
Um,
honestly, I thought when we made that trade, when we traded Kadri to them, I thought they were about at a turning point where they were going to really start trending upward, but it's not quite the case.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't trade Kadri. He just signed with them because
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
have the
My
money for
bad.
him. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
right.
thought they were kind of there, and then the whole Kachuk thing blew up in their face, and it's a bummer. And Dustin Wolf has been pretty average. He's at an 8.98 save percentage, so they need him to be
Yeah,
uh, exceptional, and he was very good last year.
yeah.
Um, but they give up a lot of high danger chances, so it's kind of like what's he to do?
Right.
So
Like you can only blame the goalie so much when they're just teeing off right in front of the
totally.
crease. It's he's in a
I
tough position there.
I mean, and you see this in the investment in him. I think Dustin Wolf is their one of their main building blocks.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right, this guy's young, he's real good. We believe in him. We're gonna sign him. We're gonna pay him money, and then we're gonna build around him.
And I think
But
they have some pieces that they could trade and Not this season, of course. I'm just saying for the future. I do think they have a couple pieces they can trade and maybe
Yeah.
get a solid foundation.
Yeah, I kind of thought Calgary was going to be bad. I didn't think they were going to be that bad.
Right.
I'm 13 points off on my prediction, but I did say I remember this from the first prediction episode. I didn't think that they had a championship window at all. That they,
I
so
remember that
yeah.
conversation.
So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that they're bad. A little surprised they're as bad as they are. They didn't have it at any point, I don't think so. And moving on to Vancouver, if you're good with that,
Yeah.
Vancouver's last, which is not surprising considering they traded Quinn Hughes. They were
Yep.
last before they traded him, I think, or maybe Calgary was last and they were second to last. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. They're negative 37 in point differential,
Oh
which is
boy.
second worst in the NHL. Guess who's the worst in point differential in the NHL?
The Blues?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Bennington. So Vancouver's bad. They're bad in all their stats. They're 30th in the penalty kill. I'm not even going to go over all their stats because they're just
Yeah.
bad. Just trust me that they're bad. Elias Pettersson is he's only got 11 goals and 28 points, and he's tied with Philip Roenick at 28 points for the leader on their team in points. That's all a bummer. Kiefer Sherwood is the only bright spot I think for Vancouver. He's got 17 goals. You don't expect that out of that guy.
Right.
Demko has been hurt again and not been great when he's been back. He's been very, very average.
Mhm.
He's at an 8.97. Like there's nothing about Vancouver that is not a bummer.
Yeah.
Except for Kiefer Sherwood. I think Kiefer Sherwood is the only guy where you're like, oh, that's cool.
It kind of sucks. Vancouver's always been one of those teams similar to the Kraken, where I like secretly want them to win when they're not playing
Yeah,
the Avs, and it kind of a lot of this goes back to the JT Miller situation and letting the room get out of hand, and you can really see how that eats up a team over time. And
yeah,
yeah, it's a bummer. They were such a good team before all of that, and they've just slowly been bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And with Demko and Lincoln and not stepping up this season, they're in a rough spot.
yeah. I feel bad for Adam Foote. That's what
Yep.
I'll say.
Yeah. Tough
Um,
position to be thrown into.
his
That's for
first head
sure.
coaching job,
Yeah,
and you get
that's
that,
tough.
and then they trade Quinn Hughes, and I think they got a good return for Quinn Hughes. I think
Yeah.
that is a rebuilding package I think that they'll be able to build around. But yeah, bummer Vancouver. You got the best. You got I think the best logo, and you got a really sick arena.
Yeah.
Your team is awful, and you need to blow everything up essentially. So,
Yeah, I
but
agree. Full rebuild.
yeah, so let's that takes us to the end of the Pacific. Let's look at the Western Conference playoff matchups while we're
Okay.
in the Western Conference before we switch to the East. So Western Conference playoffs, I seeded them as 1 through 8 in the projections, right? These are all projections. I got these
Right.
point projections by taking their point percentage and multiplying that by 164, which is the total available points, right? So that's like the methodology there. And basically it created a situation where Colorado was number 1, Dallas was number 2, Minnesota was number 3, Vegas was number 4, Edmonton was number 5, Seattle was 6, San Jose 7, and LA 8. I know I just read those off. Playoffs don't work in that 1 through 8 way, as we've discussed, which leads us to our first round matchups being Colorado would play LA. So that would be your 1v8. And then Dallas
You're
would
doing all
play
right.
Minnesota. Thanks, bud. Yeah. Dallas would play Minnesota, which we've talked about as that's a shame. And then you would have
Totally.
Vegas playing San Jose, which would be technically the number 4 seed playing the number 7 seed, which
Okay.
I think is a shame. And then you'd have Edmonton playing Seattle, which is technically the number 5 playing the number 6.
Um,
And so that would be your first round matchups. So, I mean, who do you think would win those matchups?
uh,
What would be the second round?
Colorado, Dallas. I just have such a hard time picking anyone over Dallas for a few reasons in the playoffs. That
Yep,
team tends to really step it up in the playoffs. Ottinger steps it up in the playoffs. They have a lot of grit. They have a lot of edge. They're a team that you do not want to play in the playoffs. And
totally.
while Minnesota made some changes, I just don't think they're there yet. I think Dallas and Colorado are clearly the two best teams in the NHL, and I
Yep.
think that will be the next round.
Yep.
The next two are a little interesting. I think Edmonton would destroy Seattle for all the
Yeah.
reasons we talked about. But there is a world where maybe San Jose could squeak something out against Vegas just with the way Vegas's goaltending's been. But I don't think that's likely. I truly believe you're going to see Vegas Edmonton, which is a
Yep.
pretty familiar
I
matchup.
agree with all that. Yeah.
And then moving on to the next round, I'll be honest, I think Colorado destroys Dallas this year, and I don't even think they take 7 games to do it.
Oh, wow.
I think one thing I have seen from Colorado this year that I haven't seen since the last cup run is grit. They're a team that if they go down by 2 in the third, they're not giving up. They're coming back.
Yeah.
I also think they're a team that has a little bit more edge as far as like hitting. You know, Josh Manson is 100% now. I think that they stack up well against Dallas, and I don't think Dallas is the
Right.
same team they were last year. So
Yeah.
I think Colorado moves on to the cup, and
I
then
think I think as long as they stay healthy, right? As
yeah,
lo-
yeah,
if you
yes,
look at these two teams right now, and like, sure, Dallas maybe gets some guys back. They're probably not going to get Sagan back.
right.
But if you look at these two teams right now, I'm picking Colorado. I think they could win in 6. I agree. I think they maybe don't need 7. They could win in 5. I just, man, I'm traumatized after the last
Yeah,
couple of years. I
I feel
I
you.
just
I
I have
think
so much
everyone is.
respect for what
But
Dallas can do, but
what I will say is when Colorado is pissed off, boy, you don't want to be on the other side of the ice of those guys.
totally.
They'll put 9 goals up against you in one fucking game. And
Yep.
they're pissed at Dallas. They're pissed that they
Yeah.
lost last first round. So
Yeah.
a pissed off Colorado, whew, you better watch out. And then
Pissed pissed off and determined. Let's go,
yeah,
boys.
yeah. And then on the other side, I think Vegas beats Edmonton. I know that might be a hot take, but I think you're
Yeah.
going to see Colorado Vegas.
I
For
agree, actually. That's where I think Edmonton falters. I
Yeah,
think
I think Vegas is
Vegas.
more of a complete team, and I honestly think their goaltending is going to get a little bit better. I don't think they're going to maintain where they're at. Whereas I can't say
Yeah.
the same for Edmonton. So
Jack Eichel is also good defensively.
yeah,
So,
he's
you
sick.
know,
He's
yeah,
so
and
good.
Mark Stone's pretty
The
good
Stone's
defensively.
really good.
So
Yeah.
you have like a matchup potential that I mean, I'm never going to say that the matchup of McDavid and Draisaitl versus Eichel and Stone favors Vegas, but
Right.
you have a matchup where you can see like, oh, those guys aren't going to get totally steamrolled by McDavid and Draisaitl.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think Vegas beats them.
And then, I think Colorado beats Vegas, and that's your first cup contender or finals team is
Yeah,
Colorado.
it's
And I'm
Colorado.
not just saying that because I'm a homer. I said this when we did the predictions. Colorado is a force to be reckoned with this year. As long as they stay
Yep.
healthy, there's no team that can beat them. And they've only lost 4 times in regular play. So
Yeah,
I think their record speaks to that.
we both picked Colorado to win the cup in our predictions, and we thought we did that with good foundational data,
Mhm.
which is kind of bearing out to be true with how much of a wagon Colorado is. But yeah, I think there's nothing on the that has happened this season that would make me think that Colorado is not going to
Right.
reach the cup, at the very minimum, reach the cup finals. So yeah, so Colorado's winning the Western Conference. That's what we think. They're currently leading it, so that makes sense. So, all right, that wraps up the Western Conference.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hope you guys enjoyed our mid-season wrap up, comparing our predictions to what is currently happening in the league. Um,
yeah, it's been great. My name's Scramble James,
I'm Kenny S. Like and
and
subscribe, follow if you want to support the channel.
yep,
And look forward to our Olympic special edition episode coming possibly next month, maybe the month after. We will see. Thank you.
right on, everybody. Have a good one.
Cheers.